State Department official is in Beijing tonight for a rare visit as part of an effort from the administration to maintain an open dialogue with China.
Around because mistakes, misunderstandings, and miscalculations can sometimes turn a Cold War into a hot war.
What happens when a Chinese destroyer accelerates to 30 knots, aimed directly at a U.S. carrier strike group operating in international waters? On June 14, 2025, that exact scenario unfolded in the South China Sea, and within minutes, the Navy's sensors lit up with threat data that could have sparked all-out war. This wasn't just another close encounter.
Nobody wants that, so one is hoping that an awful lot is going on under the surface, politically and diplomatically.
It was a stress test of two navies, one modernized around networked warfare, the other fighting to close the gap. Stick with us, because the answer reveals more than who blinked first. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video. A destroyer accelerates from 18 to 30 knots in less than 2 minutes. But why was this move such a tactical mistake? On the surface, it looked like raw aggression, a simple show of speed. But anyone who understands modern naval combat knows that move carried massive consequences. The Chinese Type 052 Delta-class destroyer gunned its engines and surged forward, cutting across the blue waters toward the American guided missile cruiser USS Princeton.
Indo-Pacific Command says a Chinese warship came within 150 yards of an American destroyer above the Taiwan Strait. These images were captured by...
That sudden burst of speed didn't just catch the attention of lookouts with binoculars. It immediately set off a stream of electronic alarms inside the American Operations Center. What Beijing may have meant as a test of confidence was received as a reckless gamble that exposed more than they ever intended. Inside the U.S. cruiser, sailors did not scramble or panic. Displays lit up calmly with data flowing into every workstation, each operator watching the rising speed curve of the Chinese ship with quiet concentration. The contrast couldn't have been clearer. On the American side, there was patience, discipline, every action measured and recorded. On the Chinese side, urgency had replaced caution, as if they hoped momentum and intimidation could tilt the balance against the carrier strike group. In reality, their acceleration only widened the radar picture and made targeting them far easier. When a warship accelerates that hard, it leaves a visible trail across multiple spectrums of surveillance.
It's going to be a capability that is really important. So we know that they are practicing that. We know also that they're doing a lot of submarine drills.
The massive surge creates turbulence in the water, throwing cavitation noise into the sea that sonar arrays can pick up instantly. On radar, the ship's velocity shift exaggerates its signature, painting it brighter and larger to any advanced surveillance system. Instead of disappearing into the blue expanse, the destroyer became a spotlighted target screaming across every American display.
They're trying to flex their muscles and advance authoritarianism. We need to stand strong, and certainly this administration needs to stand strong.
Precision sensors didn't lose track. They locked tighter. The USS Princeton had one of the most capable radar systems afloat, the SPY series, a phased array set designed specifically for threats like this. As soon as the Chinese warship surged forward, Princeton's operators tagged it, tracked it, and shared the data seamlessly across the entire Nimitz carrier group. That was where the Chinese commanders miscalculated. They assumed this would draw a single ship's response, a one-to-one standoff. In reality, every destroyer, cruiser, and even the aircraft in the air instantly received the same detailed information, distributed by cooperative engagement capability systems and broadcast across Link 16. In less than a second, what started as one radar track became a common picture for dozens of ships and aircraft. For the Americans, the network meant no one was blind. The destroyer's moves were seen in real time by Hawkeye early warning aircraft orbiting miles overhead, by FA-18 crews with target designators on their radar screens, and by every watch officer standing behind command tables on multiple ships.
think the bottom line is still that America has overriding military power. And without wanting to sound glib, those who know, know. I think the Chinese know that.
The U.S. Navy's entire strike group effectively became one giant sensor, stitched together with coherent data, while the Chinese fleet still struggled with fragmented stovepipe systems that often failed to link aircraft and warships.
State Department official is in Beijing tonight for a rare visit as part of an effort from the administration to maintain an open dialogue with China.
That difference was most obvious when you looked at the air wings involved. The Chinese J-15 fighters flying above the destroyer relied on old mechanical radar sets that struggled to track multiple moving targets in a cluttered environment. In contrast, the American fighters carried APG-79 AESA radars, electronically scanning the sky with range, accuracy, and resistance to jamming the Chinese systems couldn't match.
The right things to rein in that kind of conduct, because I think accidents can happen that could cause things to spiral out of control.
Before a single missile was armed, before anyone even touched a weapons console, the electronic imbalance was already tipping the scales. Technology, not brute speed, defined who had the advantage. Beijing expected the maneuver to force caution. They wanted the Americans to second-guess every move and hesitate. Instead, they were facing a defense in depth.
If President Trump does want to flex his military muscles, then he's probably the only person on the planet who can make things happen. So,
Growler electronic warfare aircraft ready to jam, Hawkeyes pulling the big picture from high altitude, and Hornets armed and on station waiting for orders. The destroyer's sprint had not cornered the Princeton. It had thrown open the entire Chinese formation for precise surveillance and showed exactly how vulnerable they were against a networked fleet. In trying to project dominance, the Type 052 hadn't frightened its opponent. It had done the opposite, handed the U.S. Navy a clean profile of its intentions, its limitations, and its position.
Around because mistakes, misunderstandings, and miscalculations can sometimes turn a Cold War into a hot war.
From that moment on, the tone of the encounter was set, and it wasn't set in China's favor. Which leaves the critical question, was this just an instance of saber rattling and theater at sea? Or was it the first spark of something far more dangerous?
The rising tensions between the world's two most powerful countries, the United States and China, after several military close calls. In the most recent incident,
What started with a destroyer pushing its engines revealed something bigger. The Americans weren't just watching, they owned the environment. Every signal, every maneuver, fed into a digital web that gave their side dominance before a shot ever needed to leave a launcher. The South China Sea encounter wasn't really about speed or even nerves. It became a test of who could control the battle space without triggering combat. Supremacy was decided through invisible networks and silent sensors, not missiles. So what do you think? Was this routine theater at sea or the opening signal of a larger contest?